Welcome back, everyone. Today is the seventh episode of the weekly stats report. In this week's report, I'll combine data from the last 2 weeks into one detailed summary. During this period, I drove 637 miles over 18 hours, with full self driving engaged almost 100% of the time. I say almost because my trial period ended midweek. I spent one day without it and quickly decided to purchase it again. It's simply so convenient and relaxing that I really don't want to drive manually anymore. When the trial period came to an end, I didn't receive any notification. I activated FSD as usual, thinking it was still engaged, but in fact I was only on auto steer mode. You can actually see it on the screen, only my lane is displayed. I didn't notice it right away. Then, when I reached a stop sign, the car didn't stop after the vehicle in front of me passed. It just kept going. That was a dangerous moment. It's a good reminder that auto steer should only be used on highways. It's not designed for city streets. Now, let's see the weekly recap. There were much fewer issues compared to the previous reports. We're now down to 1.3 minor issues per 100 miles, 0.7 intermediate issues, and only 0.6 major issues. That's a great trend. Weather-wise, there was a bit more variety this time. 12% of rain, 7% fog, and about 7% of night driving overall. In terms of road type, the mileage was evenly split between highway, city, and country roads. Let's start with a recurring annoyance, the automatic wipers. This is something that could definitely be improved. From what I've read on the forums, many other Tesla owners are also experiencing similar behavior. My wipers are always set to auto mode. I can still manually trigger them a short press for one wipe, or a long press to clean the windshield, but there's no physical stock anymore, which I personally find to be a good design. The problem is that wipers often activate when not needed. It tends to happen in very specific spots, like on bridges or in valleys near lakes and rivers, which makes me think it's triggered by humidity levels. On the other hand, sometimes it takes far too long for the wipers to activate when it's actually raining. Here's an example on the highway. It took quite a while for the wipers to react. FSD could still see fine, but as a driver supervising it, it's always better to have full visibility. Now let's look at some edge cases I observed. In this first case, there was heavy rain on the highway, and you can see the car automatically reducing its speed to 65 miles per hour, setting that as the maximum. That's a great and safe behavior. The only issue is that when the rain stopped, the max speed was not adjusted up. In another situation, I was on the highway, and far ahead there was a slow truck in the right lane. Cars started piling up in the left lane. Normally, I'd merge early to anticipate that. But here, FSD stayed on the right until it got stuck behind the truck at 55 miles per hour, waited for all cars to pass, and then merged left. Not exactly an issue, just a lack of anticipation that could be improved. A similar situation happened at a red light. The car was supposed to turn right, but instead of taking the dedicated right turn lane, it stayed in the left lane and wanted to merge right at the last minute. That wasn't ideal, so I took over control to continue straight. Once again, it shows that anticipation is something FSD could handle better in these scenarios. Now, let's look at what worked well this week, and there's a lot to appreciate. Occasionally, FSD will actively avoid roadkill, which is rare. Usually, I need to take control myself. In one clip, you'll see FSD move slightly to the right to let a faster car pass by. I noticed this several times. Sometimes it causes a bit of zigzagging, but the intention is good. In another clip, FSD handled a yield situation perfectly. An oncoming car appeared right after an intersection, and FSD yielded smoothly. It was not an easy scenario, but the car managed it impressively. Here's another one. FSD moved to the right lane to let a car pass, and then came back to the left afterward. In my opinion, it could have just stayed left, but overall, it was a smooth execution. Now let's go through the issues I encountered. Minor issues 1.3 per 100 miles. That's a big improvement over previous weeks. Previously, most minor issues were caused by potholes, but the city recently repaired many roads, so this drop is due more to the environment than FSD improvements. Here's a situation where a car was stopped on the shoulder with blinkers on. FSD didn't move over, even though the left lane was clear. Sometimes it handles this type of case perfectly, sometimes not. Another case, a tricky intersection near a firefighter station. It's forbidden to turn right on red, and the stop line is much further back. FSD didn't handle that properly, so I had to brake and re-engage when the light turned green. On another video, FSD stayed in the middle lane instead of the right lane as required by law. I'm using FSD in standard mode, not hurry mode. When it finally moved right, it briefly went onto the shoulder before correcting itself. Not critical, but surprising behavior. Finally, here's another lack of anticipation. A car ahead moved to the middle lane to avoid a stopped vehicle on the shoulder. FSD didn't react early enough, then realized it needed to move left, but there was a car there. So it stayed on the right, hugging the left side of the lane. Intermediate issues 0.7 per 100 miles. The most common problem remains speeding in school zones, but let's see other situations. In one case, FSD started well by merging right early as the left lane was closed. But then, it tried to take the closed ramp on the left. It slowed down, trying to merge left again, so I had to take over and accelerate. At another intersection, the car was supposed to turn right at the light. But FSD wanted to turn right before the intersection, likely mistaking a parking lot entrance for the turn lane. So I corrected and brought it back to the main lane. Major issues 0.6 per 100 miles. The first one was quite dangerous. FSD tried to turn right from the middle lane while traffic on the left was turning left. A last second maneuver like that could be risky. The other major issue happened in a work zone. The ramp to the highway was closed with orange cones, but FSD still tried to enter it. I immediately took control to prevent that. To wrap up, here's the summary of this week's Tesla FSD stats and the evolution over time. Minor issues dropped sharply to 1.3 per 100 miles. Intermediate issues were slightly below average at 0.7 per 100 miles. Major issues remained stable at 0.6 per 100 miles. Active monitoring disengagements improved significantly, especially in the first week, with 93 minutes between alerts. This was actually helped by me not wearing sunglasses, as I noticed they can interfere with driver monitoring. I put them back on the second week and the stat dropped to 22 minutes. It's even worse with a cap. Over the 2 weeks, the average was 33 minutes per disengagement, meaning around 22 minutes on average without touching the wheel at all, better than last week. And that's it for this week's Tesla FSD Weekly Stats Report. Hopefully next week, I'll have the new version of FSD 14. If you want to follow the progress and see real-world data on how FSD evolves, make sure to subscribe and check out my other videos and shorts on the channel.